Thank you. We are reconvening the Budget Conference Committee. We are on item 38, access to justice. Ms. Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, we are on issue 38, page 51, and this package does represent a conference compromise. Item number 1 is $5 million for Equal Access Fund. Those are grants that provide legal assistance to those who are unable to pay for it. I would also note that there is a slight change to item number 5 on the agenda under the late breaking news category. We have a new conference compromise which deals with peremptory challenges, and it would move the challenges from the number of 10 to 6. This would sunset in 2021, and there would also be an associated report.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. Any comments or questions? Senator Leno.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that would be January 1st, 2021.
That's correct, Senator.
So there are a number of serious problems with this, in that there is a 2-year bill moving through the legislature which has not had legislative or fiscal review support on the Assembly side. There have been ongoing negotiations with stakeholders. To take any action like this tonight is very disrespectful to that negotiation. I think it's no small detail that there is the rare occasion of the California District Attorneys Association as well as the California Public Defenders coming together on an issue. They've come together in opposition to reducing the number of 10 peremptory challenges to any lower number. And I'll spare you all the policy reasons for that, because we shouldn't be having that policy debate in this room. That's not what we're here for. The governor, and correct me if I'm wrong, proposed reducing the number in his January budget.
That's correct. We did have a proposal as part of our January budget.
Right. And are you aware of what each house did with that proposal?
I believe, and I'm going to let my colleague correct me if I'm wrong, that the Assembly heard it, and I don't believe it was heard on the Senate side. And the Assembly rejected the proposal, I believe, when they heard it in their subcommittee in around March.
Right. So I don't know what message the governor didn't hear when he put it in his January budget, and the budget subcommittees had an opportunity to deal with it. Now, I understand that the reason for the administration's proposal was to save money, and that's why we're even having this conversation in conference tonight. But I'm also told that in Sacramento County, the number of misdemeanor jury trials, which will be impacted by this, number about 10 a month. So I don't know where we're going to find great savings with a county as large as Sacramento having 10 of these jury trials a month, and that in the entire calendar year in Los Angeles County, largest county in the nation, 400 in a year's time. So I will vote for this tonight because it's the best option I have, that being that there will be a sunset. In negotiations with the administration, in my weakened position, I asked why not at least keep it at the 7, which is what was before us before this new compromise, and the sunset. No. Has to be 6. I don't think of my governor as being that petty, but that kind of insistence, I believe, is.
I can assure you that he's not, Senator.
Well, as I say, that's not how I think of him. But the item before us, I think, suggests something other. And again, just the process is wrong. This was brought back to us today. I know it's not a new issue, but the earlier presentation to the legislature was denied. And in the midst...
Or not heard.
Well, that's a statement in itself. So you can hear my frustration. I have to vote because I'm being honorable to an agreement that the pro tem of the Senate made. But I couldn't cast that vote without expressing my disappointment in the process, in the disrespect for the ongoing policy consideration that will now be brought to an end as a result of this action. So again, I wish I could smile and say everything's great, but it's just not the case.
Just a point of personal privilege. I mean, petty, disrespectful. I would not characterize that in this way at all. This is a proposal the administration brought forward in January. The latest proposal that I just presented here is based on conversations that we've had in good faith with legislative staff on this issue to get us to the point where we have a sunset as well as a report. I believe your previous point was salient about the fact that there are very few of these that exist within Sacramento County, and therefore I believe it to be an incremental change that's appropriate.
And in the compromise, I also understand that there will be a report back to the legislature so we can actually determine when it sunsets if indeed there is any significant savings, so we can have that information for those who will be in the legislature in 2021.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Nielsen?
I would argue the criminal justice system is in the throes of great enough upheaval now. This is not the greatest upheaval that it's been subjected to in the last several years, but it is one. And the preemptory challenge issue is really important in the conduct, particularly the criminal justice system. And in terms of the arguing of savings, I would argue that, and it's one of the reasons I think that the district attorneys and the criminal defense attorneys want to preserve this opportunity. I believe that this can have the salutary effect of cutting down opportunities for subsequent appeals if you work some of these things out through your preemptory challenges. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I deal with criminal defense attorneys and district attorneys an awful lot, or have in my lifetime. And I think that this will compromise a lot of solving of problems within our courts. And further, it is a major change, a major policy change. And I think that it still deserves a lot of scrutiny, a lot more than we're going to be able to get here. And whatever has gone on heretofore in the legislature, to me, is not conclusive and thorough enough to give me comfort that ramming something through in the budget and in the trailer bill is doing justice for the people of the state of California. I cannot support this.
Thank you, Senator. Other comments from the committee? Assemblymember Bloom.
Well, just really quickly, we've talked briefly about the fiscal impact, or which I don't think we really quite understand, and so it's good that we'll have a study if this as this moves forward. But there are, it's a rare occurrence when you have district attorneys and public defenders on the same page on an issue like this. I think we need to be concerned about the rights of defendants. That's something that's embedded not just in California law, but in the law of the nation. And I can't come to a conclusion whether or not this positively or negatively affects those rights, because I haven't had time to study the issue, not knowing that I was going to be coming here tonight to address it. And so I am disappointed in that.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Any other comments, thoughts? I would just have a question, Ms. Costa. In the original proposal, obviously, we understand that there was potential fiscal savings. Was there any estimate at all of fiscal savings?
The Brendan Murphy, Department of Finance. The original estimate of fiscal savings was under between $1 to $2 million a year.
Okay.
That's the statewide.
Thank you. Without repeating myself, I would just identify my comments with Senator Leno and Assemblymember Bloom's. Obviously, we're not happy about this being put into the budget process. I don't agree that there is really a significant budget issue, but just to echo Senator Leno's words that obviously this was part of a larger discussion with the speaker and his staff. And so at this point, I am prepared to be supportive, although I'm not happy about it. So with that, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, just another
Senator
comment.
Bates.
I did have some input from my counties regarding the dependency council augmentation, needing that. I see it's not here, but I'd like to ask Department of Finance, would there be any consideration going forward? Because our counties are really hurting in terms of having adequate counsel for our children abused and the foster kids who need this.
Yes, ma'am. I think we will continue to review dependency council and the correct funding level moving forward through subsequent budgets.
Yeah, I'd just like to have that on record, because it is a mounting issue in the counties of San Diego and Orange County in particular.
Thank you, Senator Leno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Bates, I can fill you in a little bit more on that. You're pushing all my buttons right now. That was a very important issue for our caucus as well. This issue of dependency counsel. The attorneys who assist our foster youth in decisions that impact their lives dramatically have salaries as low as $55,000 a year. These are people who are doing the Lord's work. They could be earning twice, 3, 4, 5 times that much, but they're devoted to the foster youth of California. And they have caseloads that would spin your head. I think they can be as high as 100 or more. And so there was a proposal for about $29 million, but it would be ongoing. And as we know, our ongoing pot was very small. And so the administration said, it's just not doable. So I then floated the suggestion that could we use one-time money for the same amount, but do it over 3 years, which would mean that there would be a reduction of 2/3. They would only get 2/3 of what is needed right now. And do it over 3 years and let future legislatures see what the state of affairs are then. I was told it would likely face a line item veto, in which case we'd be putting that amount of money out to be vetoed and unable to repurpose it for some other use at that time when there's so many other great needs. So that's not a part of the agreement here, but it's a great disappointment.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Hancock?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I share your concerns too, Senator Bates. Sub 5 did include unanimously money for dependency counsel. We've heard from some of the attorneys. What are we going to do? Does the administration have a plan?
Well, I think Senator Leno eloquently stated that in this particular budget package, and I know I've said it frequently, but one of the major components of the governor's budget proposal, and has been since January, is to really include a robust reserve and to limit our ongoing funding to ensure that we're prepared when there is the inevitable economic downturn. And unfortunately, that does mean sometimes we have to make tough choices and we have to prioritize things. And specifically for the Dependency Council, it was really a question of the appropriateness of one-time funds versus ongoing funding for this program.
Well, I think there have been many compromises like that. And we're going to have to continue, because we talk often about balancing the budget on the backs of the poor or whatever. This is balancing the budget on the backs of our most vulnerable children, who, many of them who are, in fact, our children, because they're wards of the state. So it was a disappointment that we couldn't find any way to keep this money in the budget.
Not to beat
Senator
it to
Bates.
death, but I do think it's important. When you see the number of children who are in the foster care system and those who find themselves in the wrong placement, and as a result of that, they don't live to talk about it, this should be a absolutely highest priority in terms of what is funded. So that really needs to be on record. We all know what has happened here in LA County and Orange County in particular with children who have been placed in the wrong homes with the wrong people. And their counsel are absolutely imperative to ensure that they are being taken care of and placed accordingly to something that protects their safety and gives them a quality of life.
One more comment from Senator Leno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Bates, your comments reminded me of any number of conversations I've had with foster youth. We often have the opportunity to have a foster youth shadow come with us during a day in the Capitol. But whether it's here in the Capitol or in the district, almost without exception, proactively, these youth will share with me that in all the turbulence of their lives and the comings and goings of placement after group home after group home after family again, and we know it can sometimes be a dozen or more in a short lifetime, that they share with me the only person they feel they can trust out of all the counselors and people who come and go in their lives, the only one they tell me who they don't feel has an agenda other than their own are their attorneys. That's the one person they can trust in their life. That's the kind of work they're doing.
Okay, thank you, Senator. Do I have a motion? Assemblymember Bloom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move items 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Motion to approve items 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's a second. Do I have a vote? 3-2 on the Assembly side. 3-2 on the Senate side. Okay. Item number 5. We discussed this. Trailer bill language reduces the number of preemptory challenges.
I guess I'll be the one. I'll reluctantly move item number 5.
Okay. Motion to move item 5. Do I have a second? Okay, there's a second. 3-2. 3-2. 4-0. 4-0-3-2. Okay. Issue 39, local public safety. Ms. Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Issue number 39, page 52 of the agenda. This truly is a conference compromise package. This includes local public safety items that were identified as both legislative priorities as well as administrative priorities.
Thank you. Any questions? Senator Hancock.
Yeah, I just want to really agree. This is something that we put together, and I think will be very helpful to local law enforcement and to the communities they serve to try to make safer neighborhoods. So I would move items 1 through 12.
Okay, we have a motion to approve items 1 through 12. Senator Leno.
Just a couple comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the governor's original proposal, there was to be used $250 million general fund dollars for county jail construction. I know I'm not alone among my colleagues that believe that jail construction is not necessarily the way for us to be going, but the governor's come back with the proposal of $250 in lease revenue bonds. The additional $20 is for the Napa jailhouse that was damaged in the earthquake. So it's a bit of a stretch to support this, but I just want to point out that we were able to add to this proposal requirements that there must be an allowance for personal jail visitation in these projects so that parents, family members can visit, not just via video, but in person. And so that was a bit of a win for us. And then additionally, that there must be compliance with the statutory Prison Rape Elimination Act, which was a federal act of 2003. So some small victories along the way. And then the administration was agreeable, or is agreeable, to additional $67.5 million in one-time community infrastructure grants. This is important to a number of counties, including San Francisco, which actually had bid for the jail construction appropriation and was awarded $80 million, and the Board of Supervisors decided we don't need more jail or new jail construction in San Francisco. What we need is mental health treatment facilities, substance use disorder facilities, trauma-based services. But the county didn't have the flexibility, so we actually had to return back to the state $80 million, which sounds crazy, but there was just no county flexibility. The $67.5 million in the community infrastructure grants will provide that kind of county flexibility. And I believe, and correct me here, I think we've put some language here so that counties can either apply for the one or the other, but you're not going to be applying for both, so that specifically counties that have not yet been able to access earlier rounds of the jail construction money, and I think we've already put out $2.2 billion. There's still a few counties that haven't gotten anything. They'll be able to access this new round. Can you bring some light to this?
So Josh Gauger, Department of Finance. So that's correct. The $270 million lease revenue program will be designated, aside from the NAPA set aside that was discussed, will be designated for those counties that have never received a prior award or only received a partial award in the past. So it's specifically designated for those.
How many counties are there?
I believe the combination of the two categories is 19 counties.
19 counties. And if a county has already received in earlier rounds money for jail construction, will they be able to apply for this community infrastructure grant?
Adam Dorsey, Department of Finance. So the community infrastructure grant language is very broad and leaves a lot of flexibilities for the counties to decide what their needs are and make applications to the California Health Financing Facilities Authority for those grants.
Thank you for the clarification.
May I also
Yes.
add one point of clarification?
Please.
Amy Jarvis with Department of Finance. I think the language ended up being a little bit broader, where counties applying for the funds, rather than specifically tied to PREA, it's including a description of efforts to address sexual abuse in local criminal justice facilities. So we just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hancock.
Yeah, just to add again, I think it's very, very, very important that we have the 67 million for the community infrastructure grants. I mean, it isn't just San Francisco. I am hearing now from sheriffs across California, a typical thing is we lack the infrastructure for realignment. Realignment is aiming to reduce recidivism by really helping people re-enter successfully and also divert them from state prison. But if you don't have supportive housing, if you don't have mental health beds, if you don't have drug abuse beds, you don't have any place to divert people to. So I hope that we're going to be carefully tracking how this money goes out and what that need is. I just wondered if some of the 19 counties that have not received a grant or have only received a partial grant were to wish to apply for money for some other kinds of facilities that might be in the community, would they be eligible, or is this only for jail property?
So with respect to the grants for the diversion for building capacity around housing and other types of providers for mental health and other diversion activities. There's a lot of flexibility that the authority will have to create criteria, but it's all intended to be around building capacity for the types of services that will promote diversion away from the criminal justice system.
No, but what about the $270 million?
So specific to the $270 million, that funding is still designated for jail construction projects.
Okay.
Thank you. Member Obernolte.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a substitute motion. We'd like to split some of these out. So if I could move instead that we take up and approve items 2 through 7 and number 9, and then perhaps we can take the others as one vote afterwards.
Yes, we can. Senator Nielsen, did you have a comment or also? Okay. Is that a second for that motion, Senator? Okay, thank you. So it's a motion to vote on items 2 through 7 and item 9. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. We have 5-0 on the Assembly for that, and 5-0 on the Senate as well. Okay. Then let's have a motion for item 1, item 8, 10, 11, 12. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Thank you. I got 3. Oh, sorry. You like to break out which item? Let's just do them one at a time. That's okay. I'll take that motion for item 1. Okay. Item 1. 3-1. 3-2. 3-2. Okay. Abstaining. 3-1. 3-1. With Bates abstaining and Olson abstaining. Item 8. $15 million for law enforcement assisted diversion pilot program. Do I have a motion? Okay. Second. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. 3-0 on the Senate. 3-1 with Olson abstaining on the Assembly. Item 10. Thank you. Thank you. 5.1 million for 5.5 million for City of Salinas. We have 5-0 on the Senate. 3-2 on the Assembly.
Move item 11.
Move item 11. Thank you. Second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Adopt trailer bill language specifying that the chair of post is to be appointed by the governor. I see 3-2 on the Assembly. Senator Bates abstaining. 3-1 on the Senate. Thank you. Move item 12. $3 million for Workforce Investment Board services to ex-offenders. 3-1 with Olson abstaining on the Assembly. 3-2 in the Senate. 3-1 in the Senate with Senator Bates abstaining. Thank you. Okay. Great. We are through with issue 39. Issue 40. California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation Conference Compromise. Ms. Costa.
Thank you. Issue number 40, agenda page number 53. Again, this is a conference compromise. The package before you represents a shared goal amongst the administration and the legislature of an overall and continued investment in rehabilitative goals to ensure the success of inmates upon release.
Thank you very much. Senator Hancock.
1 through 7. Again, I think we're on the verge of having some very positive things happen in CDCR, and that will really encourage safer communities and more rehabilitation when individuals are in prison.
Thank you, Senator Hancock. Okay.
So I would
motion
move
second.
that.
Senator Nielsen?
I have a
question.
On number 7, tell me about the discharge rescission component. What is the discharge rescission component?
What was that piece? I believe that piece ultimately was removed from the final trailer bill package.
It has been removed?
It has been removed, is my understanding.
But what did it imply? That you were given a discharge and that discharge had been then denied for cause?
Drew Soderborg, Legislative Analyst Office. My understanding is that at certain times the Juvenile Parole Board would make a decision to release a ward, and there would be a period of time between when that decision was made and when the ward returned to the county. And the board wanted to be able to rescind that decision if the ward misbehaved in that time period.
Correct. So that would no longer be possible. And what those rescissions were for bad behavior. So now getting rid of that means if you act up, you've been given a release date, and you act up, get in a fight, gang activity, pruno, or whatever, then you're going to be rewarded because there's no sanction, no penalty. You just walk out the door, correct? That's, well, frankly, not correct. That's what it means. We're removing a penalty for continuing to act up, even after you have been granted your parole, earlier release under the juvenile authority, and now you can act up and still get an early release, no consequence. That's what that means. Anybody want to refute that?
I don't think so. I think that one of the areas of concern, and the reason we took it out, was there was a concern that it would result in time adds that we had attempted or eliminated a few years ago within DJJ. So I think that was ultimately the goal, but we can certainly get back to you, and I know that we'll be talking again about the individual trailer bills.
Well, a time add is deserved if you've done something that warrants more time because you are not behaving. I can't support the item for that reason.
Thank you, Senator.
So we'll have a separate vote on that.
Okay. The motion would be items 1 through 6 then. Second. You have a motion for items 1 through 6, okay?
I have another question, if I may, please.
Absolutely. Please, Senator.
Number 2, the Lifers program, 5.5 million lifers one time. What are we doing for life inmates under that? Is that reentry help or something?
So these are grants mainly to innovative programming grant providers, volunteer organizations that have proven to be successful in providing programs to the lifer population.
As they reenter society?
Correct. They're in prison innovative programming grants, but yes, that shall also help prepare offenders for reentry.
They're in custody programs, not in society.
Correct.
When they're going back out on parole. Having been found suitable, and then they reenter community and they're on parole. But these are not in community, these are in custody programs.
These are in custody, and I would also add before being found suitable for parole, therefore life and long-term offenders.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm okay with that one then.
Okay, thank you. Senator Leno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to share some additional information with Senator Nielsen on his question regarding the $5.5 million for programs for lifers. I know Senator Hancock and I have visited some of these programs at San Quentin and have been there for some of their graduation programs, and they're really exciting to see some of these folks who we would think to be the most grisly of grisly characters. They're there for very serious crimes. One in particular is
I agree with that.
Is a program called GRIP, Guiding Rage into Power.
I've seen so many
and
of these things.
The program has a 0% recidivism rate.
Right.
They're that successful in helping folks recognize their own demons, working things out in group sessions, and realizing that there is power in their own transformation. And we see great value in continuing some of what started as volunteer programs, now being able to sustain them and hopefully be able to establish them in prisons that are more far-flung than San Quentin, where we're going to have to invest some money because it's nearly impossible to get people to be there on a regular basis in some of the more remote areas of our prisons.
Thank you. So we have a motion to approve items 1 through Senator Bates.
Chairman Tang, I'd like to remove items 2 and 3. I just need to abstain on those because we've had very little information on them.
Okay, very good. So we're going to take out.
I just want to note that.
Absolutely. We'll take out items 2, 3, and 7. So it's items 1, 3, 4, 5, and items 1, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. That's 3-1 in the assembly with Olson abstaining.
We're up.
5-0 on the Senate. Okay. Then we have items 2, 3, and 7. We have a motion second. Thank you. So we have, do I have 2 abstentions in the Senate? 3-0 in the Senate? 3-1 with Olson abstaining in the Assembly. Okay, very good. Item 41, Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation Workforce. Ms. Costa.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Issue 41 on page 54 of your agenda. Again, this is another conference compromise where we really have a shared goal between the legislature and the administration on and a commitment really to improving and better training and retaining our staff within CDCR. And so the package before you represents several items that do exactly that.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. Senator Hancock has a motion to move items 1 through 3. Second. Great. In the Assembly, we have a vote of 5-0. In the Senate, 4-0 with Senator Bates abstaining. Thank you. Issue 42, Justice Programs, Department of Justice. Ms. Costa.
Thank you. Issue 42, agenda page number 55. Again, this is another conference compromise package. Many of these items have been discussed previously within conference committee. I'll note just a few. Number 1, 4 positions and $500,000 in the Cures Fund to address user support and staffing deficiencies for 3 years. On number 6, we had an extended conversation about this last week as well. 20 positions and $3 million of the Gambling Control Fund to address the backlog of background investigation for card rooms.
Thank you, Ms. Costa.
Move the conference compromise.
Assemblymember Olson. And there's a motion from Mr. Bloom.
May we pull item 4 and written that one separately?
Move the conference compromise except for item.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve the conference compromise excluding item 4. Senator Nielsen.
I'm going to have to vote separately on 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8.
Okay, so we'll just I'll take a motion in a second, and then we'll just vote on every single one separately. Is that okay? So we're just going to move it, and I'll just substitute all of them. So, item 1, 4 positions, $500,000 for the Cures Fund. I see 5-0 in the Assembly, 5-0 in the Senate.